We've been exploring with some things on how to generate highly qualified sales appointments and do it better than anyone else at better cost and at higher volume. And the test that we ran producing some pretty phenomenal results. And so what I thought I would start with is share a couple of frameworks that I think are key for everybody to understand as to what makes a good process to be able to generate highly qualified sales calls for you. So first and foremost, I think the most important thing that everybody has to realize and come down to, and this is the greatest mistake that people make, and it's the greatest revelation that you can understand in order to really make this work the most efficiently for you, is understanding that prospects move in 3 different speed categories, okay? And if you just understand this portion, it's a game changer for you. So let me kind of explain that real quick. But for the sake of easy language, rather than going into like some fancy proprietary language we use, let's just call them really simple languaging. We've got fast, we've got medium, and then we've got slow. And I want to talk about a couple of the properties that are true about each of these categories. Because let me just even start here. Here's the number one mistake that I see in the internet marketing industry. And the problem with that space is that almost 100% of the internet marketing industry, everything we've been taught to generate leads for our high ticket offer is geared around this medium speed right here. It was the advent of the funnel. It's the reason why someone invented the funnel. I don't know who invented it, but somebody invented the sales funnel. And this is based on the reality of a couple things, right? Number one, 3 to 13 touch points required before someone makes a buying decision. You've heard that somewhere. They need a bunch of touch points before they're willing to make a transactional decision. This usually also means that there's an opt-in involved because we need to gather the lead, nurture that lead over time, and then at some point offer them a conversion mechanism for them to be able to transact with us in one way, shape, or form. Now, I'm not really going to talk too much about the medium speed because I'm assuming you know what this is because you've probably built a marketing system around this speed. And so we don't really need to talk too much about it, but I want you to know the problem with only focusing on a medium mover using a traditional funnel is the fact that it's only really reaching 33% of your ideal prospect. Right? So one category of prospect is being met here, but we're negating the 2 other speeds. So the other one then is slow. I think slow is pretty straightforward, but these are people who are problem aware, but they're not actively seeking a solution right now. So these are people who know they have a problem, but they're not urgent. They're not really desiring a solution right now. It takes them time to make some decisions. And so really the key for these folks is realizing that they're not bad leads. They're just slow leads. And I don't know about you. I'm assuming everyone here has some sort of an email list. I don't know if you noticed, but even in my world, when someone enrolls in our thing, one of the first questions we ask is like, how long have you been in my world before you decided to make the transactional decision? And the crazy part is it's between like 2 to 6 years. People who just slow, right? And y'all know this person. It's like they're on your email list. You send out an email, and when you send out an email, they respond to the email because they like it so much and they think, wow, you're so smart. It's great. And then you send out another email and they respond and they read it. And they're the ones who make your open rates go up. And then it's like, you get that same email over and over and over and over and over and over again. And then finally, after like 2 years, they say, I'm ready to buy your book, on Kindle for 99 cents. And you're like, oh my, it took you that long to make that decision. Now, what's the problem with that? Nothing. I think the main problem that most people don't realize with the slow is that this is still a valid category that most people ignore, right? It's just like, yes, there are prospects in that category that we can't ignore, but we actually have to focus on. And that's not the goal of this conversation, but I just want to throw that out there to say, if all you're focusing on is the medium speed and you're ignoring the slow speed, you're missing 33% of the potential prospect. Does that make sense so far? Okay, so this is obviously, there are techniques and mechanisms. I call it the DJSS process, but just know that these are not bad leads. They are just slow leads and should be treated and nurtured accordingly. Now, here's the thing that I like to talk about the one I'm most excited about, and the reason why I think we're put on the map when everyone else is failing to capitalize on this. And these are the fast movers. Now, here's what I know about fast movers. They are problem aware, but they're also actively seeking a solution right now. These are people who know they've got a problem, they want a solution, and they don't want to jump through a ton of hoops to be able to get that solution. And here's the biggest aha moment that we had a couple of years ago when we realized the fast mover. The fast mover is also market aware. Now, what does market aware means? It means they're educated in marketing. And you've probably seen this person who and you're probably one of these people. Like when you see an opt-in page, what do you actually see? You see the beginning of a marketing funnel, generally speaking. You know that you're about to be marketed to, right? If you see a discovery call or a strategy session invite, you know that that's not a discovery call or a strategy session. You know that it's what? A sales call. You know that. And so does your market, right? So these are people who are market aware, actively seeking a solution. And the biggest aha moment that we had is this category of people, because they're market aware, the traditional forms of marketing don't work for them. So here's what I mean by that. These are people who are money rich, time poor. They have the money to afford your high ticket thing, but they are not going to sit through a bunch of hoops in order to get there, right? So these are people, if you give them a webinar invite, they will not sit through the webinar invite. They might register, they probably won't show up, but most of them won't even register in the first place. A perfect example of this is I was looking for a LinkedIn agency to help us. I got a referral from a friend that said, hey, you should talk to, let's just call him Tom for the sake of this easy language. He said, you should go talk to Tom because Tom's got this great agency. He helped us out, great results, et cetera. So I got on an email with Tom and I said, hey, Tom, I'm ready to get started. I know your pricing. Let me know next steps. And you know what Tom said to me? Tom said, well, let's schedule a discovery call. I said, dude, I don't need a discovery call, man. I know your pricing. I know it's what I need. I know your guarantee. I'm good to move forward. Just send me the onboarding docs. He goes, no, I really think you should schedule a discovery call with me and then watch this quick video before we have that call. Long story short, at the end of the day, I didn't end up working with him because I'm a fast mover. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for marketing sequences. I know what I want. I know how to get it. If you have an offer that can solve my problem, I'm going to say yes. So does that make sense to everybody? So the point I'm making here then with this is that when we are considering lead generation specifically for high ticket sales or what I call high investment offers, and everyone here has an offer for at least $5,000. So people have a high ticket offer here. Your high ticket person, A, is not going to sit through a traditional funnel, number one. B, is not going to go through an ascension model, number two, meaning they're not going to buy your $7 trinket today and then all of a sudden spend 30 grand with you next month. That doesn't happen either. This fast person needs an answer and they need it now, and we need to give them something. So the point I'm trying to make here for everybody is we need a process for all three speeds. You probably already have a process for the medium speed, so let's not talk about that. You should be considering a slow. That's not the point of this conversation. But most importantly, and where we really put our emphasis is on the fast. And that's for two reasons. Your best prospect, these are people who, when they get on a sales call with you, are not necessarily arguing or objecting or whatever. They're like, can you solve my problem? Yes or no? Yes, I can. Then tell me the next steps. And it's really a conversation about having a good fit or not. Secondly, they give you the least amount of customer service grief because y'all know your best clients who join. They're not the ones who are emailing you all the time and giving you a hard time. These are the people who are like, yeah, let's get this done. And thirdly, fast movers are your greatest ambassadors. These are people who are like, I get it. I love it. I dig it. Let's go. Let's tell other people about it. So what I want to emphasize today and really put an emphasis on you is to say you probably have a medium funnel in place. Let's keep that. If it works, fine. Don't touch it. But let's bolt on a fast process and let's bolt on a slow process. We're not going to talk about slow today, but in your mind, have a process for all three speeds. So based on this recognition then, that there are three speed categories, essentially. This was my funnel that I first came up with in 2013 and has generated over $600 million in sales. And I thought it was the creme de la creme. I thought it was the way to go, the best thing. But essentially, it is an ad that leads to, let's just call it an opt-in page of sorts. So we are generating a lead. This is what we've been taught in this industry forever. And then on the final page, we have, let's call it a conversion event. Okay. Ultimately, this is what most people's funnels look like, right? It's an ad that brings somebody to some sort of an opt-in page. And when they get to that opt-in page, they're presented with a lead magnet. They're presented with a webinar. They're presented with a 3-part video series. They're presented with a product launch. They're presented with a live event. They're presented with a challenge, whatever it be, opt in for something. And then the conversion event happens. And again, that conversion event could be a webinar, it could be a challenge, it could be whatever it is that you typically do. And I said, well, if this is true, that there's fast, medium, and slow movers, and most funnels, as I can show you here, are geared towards medium movers, well, what if I then geared this to the fast mover? And so what I did was here, my main conversion event, I said, rather than offering a webinar that they have got to sit through or a 4-part video series or something like that, what if I just in the conversion event offered a call? But I did it in a very specific way. We call it a GFO, a Godfather offer. But ultimately, what if I just offered a call? Because if I can offer a call, now the fast mover is going to be like, again, and by the way, why do we offer a call? Because if we're selling anything worth $5,000 or more, someone's not just going to slap you their credit card by landing on a web page. We realize that. There needs to be a conversation that is had with one of our salespeople or ourselves before someone's going to be like, yeah, here's 10 grand or here's 40 grand or here's whatever. So there has to be the call element. And so I said, well, why don't I just go add to opt-in, get them to opt in, and then send them over to a call? And this thing crushed it. Since 2013, we generated untold amounts of revenue using this system. And for me personally, I'll give you my numbers. When I did this process myself, I was generating calls between $600 and $800 a call. Now, do the economics work for me to do that? Yes. At the end of the day, they did. We still were profitable, but I realized, hey, this is what it's going to cost me. And so we have to work out our economics accordingly. Keep in mind, I'm in a highly competitive niche. I'm going after a bunch of people, business owners, and a lot of people are going after them. And then in January of this year, and here's the aha moment that I want to pass on to you that I think is going to lay the foundation of everything else. I had this aha moment that said, wait a second. If fast movers are truly fast, number one, and two, I realized that they are market aware, meaning I realized that they don't want to opt in and they know what funnels are and they don't want to be marketed to and they don't want to go through all that process. What if I just did something crazy? What if instead of having this funnel, I eliminated this point altogether? And what I did instead was go add over to a call invite in a very specific way, not just generally, but in a very specific way. And so we tested this idea of an add to a call invite directly to see how this would perform for us. And this was January of this year. And what I started to notice based on some of the tweak elements that I made, that my call cost went from $600 to $800 down to $100 to $200. And this is what we're paying per call right now, today, as we speak, at scale. And I said, now I've realized that there's a reality here, that fast movers are truly fast. Fast movers don't like be marketed to. Fast movers are simply saying, I've got a problem. Do you have a solution? If that's the case, I'm willing to speak to someone about that solution. Now, it's got to be done and nuanced in a very specific way, of course. But when you eliminate the thing that the fast mover doesn't want to go through in the first place, and present a couple of nuanced ideas. In other words, you've got to position yourself in a very specific way. And I'll show you one last framework to kind of sum this all up. But when you did this, all of a sudden our call volume went up drastically. And not only did our call volume go up, but our cost per call went down. Now, if you've got a 30 to 40 minute VSL, because I get it, I hear this all the time. Well, they're not qualified unless they consume my webinar or my VSL or something like that. The realization that fast movers don't actually need all that content before they're willing to talk to somebody about a solution. As long as the solution is positioned properly, they're ready to talk to you about it. Doesn't mean they're ready to buy, but they're ready to talk to you about a solution. So that's the mind shift that I think needs to be made, that a prospect doesn't need 40 minutes of content before they're willing to talk to you about a solution to their problem. So the point here is we're trying to reduce resistance steps. And most people's funnels have too many resistance steps that doesn't allow the fast mover to move all the way through. The less resistance, and keep in mind, resistance is a click. Resistance is another page. You'll notice on our pages, we mitigate the amount of clicks, meaning our application is right on the actual landing page. It's not on another page. The application is pre-filled out as much as possible. When they get to a calendar booking page, that's all pre-filled out for them for not to have to add any further. Like all of those points are resistance points, and the fast mover detests resistance. And so all we're doing is try to open up an open channel for the fast mover to move through. So here's what I found. My whole thing, the foundation of what I always want to provide for people is what I call limitless leads. If you can be in a situation where you have leads and qualified leads that pour in over and over and over again without any stress, that would be a good thing. Yes. And that is kind of where I focus, but that's not really the focus, because limitless leads is a means to an end. What is the end? It's not just more leads, but what I call predictable profit. We want systems that produce predictability. And so I think there are three keys that any sales process or lead generation process needs to have, which is going to reveal to you now. So three keys. First, we have to realize is the market. And what I mean by that is, who is the prospect? Now, I know this is kind of a simple question. And you're like, of course I know who my market is, but no, most people don't, because we're talking about the fast mover. Most people have a general sense of who their avatar is, but they don't know the inner workings of who their actual fast mover prospect is. And so there's three questions that we ask when it comes to market. The first question is, who are they? Like, who actually are they? Specifically, the people who move quickly, who our best clients are, not the worst, not the average, our best fast mover. The second question we ask is, what motivates them? We call these the four forces. But what are the psychological transactional triggers that cause this person to say yes to an offer? If you don't know the actual buying buttons, the psychological triggers, then no matter what funnel you have, it won't work. You have to know exactly who they are when it comes to the market. And then lastly, the third question is, where do we find them? I mean, not just the channel, like we can find them on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and TikTok and Twitter and all this kind of stuff, but how do we find them within that channel? I have people coming to us, and we shot a video the other day of someone saying, well, I focus only on C-level executives that have businesses between 100 and 300 employees. Can you reach that person on Facebook? My answer is an easy yes. I'll show you exactly how to do that, right? And it's outside the normal targeting of Facebook. There are ways to reach those people. So the questions that we need to ask again is, who are they? What motivates them to transact? Specifically, what are their psychological buying triggers? And there's four of them essentially. And where do I find them? This is the starting point. No funnel, no matter how good or what style it is, can work unless we start in that specific place. So once we have that category taken care of, the next question that we have to ask is, or not the question, but the element is our message, or in other words, our offer. Here's where I see most people drop the ball completely. When you don't have this positioned right, the whole thing falls apart. So when you're looking at your system, you're going to ask three questions about your message. Number one, what is your promise? In other words, everybody in your industry is making a promise. Does yours sound any different, or does it sound the same as everybody else's? Right? If it's like, oh, I'll help you build an Amazon store, I'll help you in leadership, or I'll write better copy for you, or whatever it is. If you're just sounding like everyone else in your marketplace, your entire funnel and offer is going to fall apart. So the first element we ask is, what is our promise? How clear, articulate, and different is it? How strong is it? How confident are we into it? The second thing we have to ask is, what is our position in the marketplace? Are we seen as a category of one? Are we swimming in a blue ocean? Or are we seen as kind of gray in a sea of black and white? Right? How we position who we are with credibility, authority, with social proof, and a whole bunch of other things determines the desirability of a prospect. The higher the positioning, the better the promise, the higher the desirability of a prospect. This is making sense so far, right? So thirdly, then, the third P here is what I call preeminence. Are you truly in a blue ocean, a category one of in your marketplace? Or does what you offer positioned in such a way that it makes, there's no competition, there's no logical sense for your prospect to even consider anybody else, because you're the only smart, logical next step for them. And that's what we have to do. And here's where most people's offer and landing pages and funnels and entire thing falls apart, because they have a weak promise, their positioning is mediocre, and they definitely don't have any preeminence. So we need to be clear on those three elements when it comes to the message. And then the third element, which is just as important, and here's where they all kind of tie together, is what I call the machine, or in other words, the system. Now, we've alluded to a little bit of this already, but the system, the first question we have to say, or the first element we have to evaluate, is the machine clear? I don't know about you, but like some of these funnels are so bloody complicated. Like opt into this, then there's 14 pieces of branch logic that then puts people in behavioral marketing that goes down this, that path, the other, and whatever. Then a setter kicks in and a chatbot kicks in. And oh, by the way, if that doesn't work, you send a flower to their house through send out cards. And then you have a webinar. And if the webinar thing doesn't work, invite them to a challenge. And it's like, no wonder the person doesn't know where they're going because it's not clear. It's a muddied funnel. And we think if we post on TikTok and we post on social and we write content and put out blogs, that attracts our ideal prospect. Totally unclear, completely muddy. And that's why I see a lot of processes fail. So the first question is the process clear? The second is it concise? Meaning, is it simple? How many bloody steps are there? Because remember, the fast mover doesn't need more than one step. My funnel is one step with one video. It's one step with one 4-minute video. That's what it is. Not for the medium movers and not for the slow movers, but right now we're not talking about them. For the fast movers, one step, one video positioned a very specific way that covers our message, done properly, it moves them through. So is your process concise, simple, least amount of steps as possible? And then thirdly, is your process complete? If your funnel is working, is it the only thing that you ever need to run in order for you to generate limitless leads? Or on top of that, do you need to add Facebook groups and setters and this and that and all this other stuff? Because the goal is if you can have a process that's clear, concise, and complete the machine, then you're really off to the races. So let me show you what this looks like. When you have the market dialed in and the message dialed in, at that intersection, you get qualified lead generation. Because your message to market match is perfect, so you get qualified leads coming through the system. When your message and your machine is dialed in together, you have simplicity. It's not complicated. You don't have to worry about it. It's not a bunch of moving parts to say, how does this work? It's just simple. One funnel, it does its job, it produces. And if you have the machine and the market connected, you have certainty because the machine is doing the job. It's producing the stuff and it's going over and over and over again. Now, let me just show you, let me see if I could bring up this screenshot just to show you like our process and what we do for our clients. When we build machines, this is what we're talking about. This is our client funnel that we create for people and then upload into their account. So they don't have to create anything. We do all the work. You just have to customize it. But there's a couple key elements here to it. So first, we give you all the pages that are in the funnel. There's only 3 that are really key that matter. It's the landing page that's positioned a very specific way. Obviously, your call booking page, which is just a calendar, and a thank you page after that person registers. Now, these are pre-built already. You just have to customize it accordingly for you and, take care of that. We have a couple of other extra pages that are optional that you could use. Now, if that's all you got in a funnel, great, but you're only like 30% of the way there. Right. So what we've also done on top of that is create some automations. We have different automations that are pre-built for you here. I'll just show you one of them, not all of them, like the booked call sequence. So when someone books a call, what does our system do for you? Right. Well, first you get an internal notification. And again, these are dynamic fields that are already pre-built for you. It just it has everything in there. So once you set up your profile, it dynamically pulls these elements in, but you get an internal notification to your sales team that says, hey, so-and-so just booked this call with you at this time. And here are the details, right? You also get your Facebook conversion API kicking off. So you get the notification via the pixel. You get tags that are placed. It creates an opportunity in the pipeline, which I'll show you in just a second. A confirmation email goes out to the individual. A confirmation text goes out to the individual. It waits a couple of minutes and then it says, hey, before you get on the call, don't forget to watch this video. And then a couple of different reminders and a couple of different texts. Again, these are all pre-filled out. And that's just one of a couple of different kind of automations and workflows. On top of that, we've already set up calendars for you. So if you look at the calendar, these are pre-filled in with our best practices. And again, nothing you have to fill in because it's all kind of already there, pre-filled in, but these are our best practices of how long a call should be, what kind of buffer time should be left in there, what days they should be on, what happens during a confirmation, et cetera. Those calendars are pre-booked in. There's a bunch of other stuff, but I'll just show you one other thing that I think is kind of cool. Even the opportunities pipeline. Now, this is obviously empty here because it's not filled in, but as people start going through your pipeline, they are pre-populated into this pipeline flow, a sales pipeline that says, okay, these are the people who submitted an application. These need to book a call. These booked a call. These are in a decision window, follow-up, et cetera. But the point here is, oftentimes when people are talking about their processes, they just like, here's what you need to do. And they say, go do it all. In our particular situation, we basically built it all for you. We've duplicated my specific funnel and we say, hey, it's all done for you. You can customize it, work on it on yourself and that sort of thing. So that's just kind of a high level view of the actual process.